Hey everybody, how's it going? This is Anthony with Facilitate the Process. And this is just actually a intro to a video that I did about 3 years ago. I think it was like June of 2021, something like that. And I talked about the recruiting process being broke. And it is still my contention today, February 2024, that the recruiting process is still broken. Um, I guess it all depends on your opinion of what broken is. I'm a little old school, so I remember the old ways of how student athletes got recruited. Coaches went out to the games, the club games, high school games, and the best athletes, student athletes, allegedly were recruited and went to school and got everything paid for and all those great things. Coming full circle now, we have, of course, NIL and student athletes and colleges looking like they are working contracts as if it's a job, right? And now we have student athletes trying to form unions and claiming that they are not independent contractors, but very much employees of a university, right? So that's that's coming forward to 2024. 3 years ago was a little bit different. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the video that, as I said, it's about 3 years ago. So some of that stuff still holds true. But when you listen to it, please leave comments as to where you see things are right now. Was I totally off base? Just my opinion of how some of those things worked. And some of it, I want to say, some of the things that I said aged pretty well. So sit back, enjoy. Please leave comments where available. We talk a lot about when we talk about the student athletes, when we're talking about recruiting and we're talking about personal, professional, and career development items, right? So, we always talk about trust the process, right? And I know y'all have heard me over the years. I've always talked about trusting the process. But you do know that we also talk about facilitating the process. And I posted something earlier this morning, pretty much in reference to that very thing, right? And I gave the definition of trust, and I want to read it from what I put. Trust is a noun. It's a firm belief in the reliability, truth, ability, or strength of someone or something, right? So you have to trust. So what are we saying in the recruiting process, right? With the student athletes, what's going on right now as far as how the pandemic unfolded, even prior to that, when things unfolded with the transfer portal, right? What do we see right now? We see, if you're seeing the same things I'm seeing, we're seeing coaches like celebrating those transfers, right? And it's nothing. I mean, I guess there's nothing technically wrong with the transfer portal. You're not happy with somewhere, they've now given you an option to go somewhere, you go, right? But y'all know I think a little bit differently. I don't go with the status quo on that. So, first of all, we always talk about trust the process. So, as the definition says, we wanted you to have a firm belief that the process is reliable, right? That there's some truth to it, right? And it's about that strength of that something, which is the recruiting process. So we wanted you to believe in that, right? We tell student athletes all the time, trust the process. Well, what if the process is not evolving, right? Because it's not, it's evolving, right? But I don't believe that it's evolving in an area where it actually still takes care of the student athlete. Some people may not believe that. They may believe that the student athletes are being taken care of in a particular way because they are allowed to be in that transfer portal or whatever. It is what it is, right? But what about those student athletes who are traditional? They are your 4-year kids. Well, sorry, not your 4-year kids, but your high school kids. Went to school, did the whole 4 years, did what they needed to do to be recruited. They've done everything that was asked of them. They have been on all the, they've done all the, proper social media stuff, whatever it is that you've asked them to do. They've done it. So what are we telling those traditional kids, those kids who went to school, went to high school, finished. They were being recruited. And now we're telling them, because of the transfer portal and also the pandemic, that you have to wait your turn again. For some of them anyway, right? But they now have to wait their turn again because they did everything they needed to do. They blood, sweat, and tears, along with the parents, for 3-4, well, parents' money more so than blood, sweat, and tears, right? And they've done that throughout their whole high school, middle school, high school career. And now they're being told still to trust the process, but yet the process is not something that they feel that's reliable anymore. Why should they feel that it's reliable when they've been told for so long to trust the process, and then the process starts to fail them, right? Because while it may not be evolving in a really good way for them, it's evolving just not in a way that includes them, if that makes it even better, right? As a clarification, it doesn't really include a lot of them, because that process now says, hold up, wait a minute, we're telling you to trust the process, but in the meantime, there are 1,000 kids in this transfer portal, and I want to go check them out. Because what happens, some of these kids, coaches were probably recruiting them at some other point, right? So if they were already recruiting them, that means they know a little bit about the kid or whatever. But remember, these are the same kids who shunned those other schools, right? Even though we were trusting the process, they shunned those other schools to go to the school that they were at. They then became uncomfortable, or it wasn't the right fit, or now they didn't want to be at that school, right? So remember that. They trusted the process and then went to that school for whatever reason it is. And now they're in the transfer portal for whatever reason, right? But these are the same kids that we told them to trust the process. So if they trusted the process and then the process didn't kind of work for them, so to speak, what are you telling those traditional kids now that are affected by the transfer portal now being basically an alternative way of recruiting student athletes from other colleges to come and play for their college, because the coaches already know these kids are already they already have the college life going on. They are already acclimated to 5 or 6 a.m. workouts. So those are things that some of these traditional kids have against them, right? But we keep telling them to trust the process. All right. So yeah, trust the process, right? But trust the process to an extent, right? So I also gave a definition of facilitate. Make, and it's an action or a process, easy or easier. Okay, so let's say they're cooking, right? And we say trust the process. All right, we're going to give you some eggs, some cheese, salt, whatever you want to put in your eggs, right? Whatever you want to put in your scrambled eggs. And we want to tell this kid, make scrambled eggs. We didn't give them the tools to make the scrambled eggs, right? We just said, go make scrambled eggs. We gave them the eggs. We gave them the salt and pepper. We didn't give them the pan. We didn't give them the flame, stove, whatever it is. We didn't give them those things to make it easier. So while we're telling them to trust the process, why are we not also facilitating that process? Oh, okay. Many people are going to say, yeah, we are facilitating it. We are providing those things, right? I mean, we're seeing it every day. We're watching these celebrations. We're watching coaches saying, oh, we got this kid. But what about that traditional kid that is not getting that opportunity now? Oh, we're going to say that that kid has to be 10 times better now, right? But they were 10 times better when you needed them, coach. When you needed them the first time, they were good. Oh, but now there's a kid in the transfer portal that beats that kid out. Well, they should beat them out, hopefully, if they're that talented and they're coming from a high-profile program and they've already done your 6 a.m. workouts at other schools. They already know about the off-season regimen. They already know all the other stuff, right? What does that sound like? Sounds like a job, right? What do you do at a job? You are going to pay somebody who is experienced, that can get the job done for you, that can help you coach to keep your job. So you can get your incentives, such as making your conference tournaments, such as achieving your 15 or 20 win total, Hey, okay, so why doesn't even no one talk about that to the kids? Why does no one talk to the kids about that part of the process? Because that's a part of that process, right? We want them to trust the process, but we don't want to tell them everything. So, as a part of facilitating that process, what do? You say, hey, that coach might be leaving in a year. You sure you want to go there? Oh, I love the school, or I love coach. Coach ain't going nowhere. Okay. We want to trust the process, but we won't facilitate the process for them and tell them what the real deal is. We want them to fall in love with the campus. We want them to fall in love with the food. We want them to fall in love with everything else there, but we don't want to give them the tools to really understand what that process and their decision means. Their minds haven't fully developed, right? So who are they listening to? They're listening to us. We're the ones telling them why they should go to this particular school. We're the ones giving them is it the right fit? What's your major? Y'all know all the recruiting questions. I don't have to tell y'all that. But why are we not making this easier for them? It's not about our decision, right? But why are we not giving them all the tools? We want them to make eggs, but we won't give them the flame. We won't give them the pan. We only giving them partial information, y'all. So now when they're being recruited, why aren't we telling them, hey, that transfer portal's out there. You may or may not get picked up. You may have to go to JUCO for 1-2 years. Everybody knows that's not an issue, right? Go ahead and go to JUCO. But the point being is this. If you were bringing them aboard to be with you in the first place, why are they now relegated to not being there at all? Because you told them to trust the process, coach. You told them to trust you. You told them that you are reliable. You told them that they should find you to be truthful. They're finding strength in you. They're finding strength in the process. But you didn't facilitate that process for them. You didn't make it easier. But we're celebrating it, though. We're celebrating it. We're not giving them all the information. We were giving them all the information we had then, right? But once that transfer portal came open, it's time to start giving them the real deal. It's time to be brutally honest with these parents and these student athletes. We got to start being brutally honest with them. First of all, if they can play, they can play. Second of all, if they can't make the grades, they can't make the grades. Stop pushing these kids and keep telling them trust the process if you're not going to facilitate it for them. Oh, but wait a minute. The kid goes D1 and, if that's my kid, we're going to celebrate them. We ain't telling them all the other truth about grades wasn't right. This might not have been right. That might not have been right. When we're going to start facilitating the process for these student athletes, we got to start doing that. Merely telling them to trust the process is not enough. The evolution of this whole recruiting game is simple. I believe it to be really, really simple. And it's been said by many people smarter than I am. It's a business. Once they start taking that one thing and start really realizing that it is indeed a business, and they must start looking at it that way. And hey, look at it from a standpoint of the coach being your supervisor who you love and endear, who may not be there in another year. Put that into your decision. Don't go there for the year knowing that the coach knowing full well that the coach was potentially going to leave, goes to another school. You want to get in the transfer portal, and now you want to go where that coach went. And guess what? You fit the coach's mold for that school, but you didn't fit where the new school that the coach went. So now the coach doesn't want you there, and now you feel some kind of way. So because it fit there, but it didn't fit at the other school. So guess what? Now you are not the correct fit for that coach. Okay, so now we got all the people going into the transfer portal, right? So let's really talk about that. You got mad. Whatever it is. It's not the right fit anymore. Who says the right fit is going to be the right fit year 1, 2, 3, and 4? I don't truly remember a lot of people saying that. It was always right fit from the very beginning, right? Right fit from the time that you want to step onto the campus. That is, but let's be real though. That's really when we really worry about the right fit. When it first starts, you first get in a relationship, it's the perfect fit right then and there because you're so in love, right? Until you hit that first snag or that second snag or that third, fourth, fifth, and you kept trying to work it out, right? But it didn't happen. So now you want to go to the transfer portal and you want to roll the dice and go somewhere else. And hopefully the next place you go is the right fit. We do know that there are kids that have been in the transfer portal like 2-3 times, right? Not knocking them, right? By far, do you. Whatever is good for you, you do. So this is not an indictment of how they do things, right? I'm just saying, in my opinion, that the evolution of the recruiting process, it's, as I said, the process is broke. I think it's broke. Forget when we talk about paying student athletes, okay? Making the schools billions of dollars and all that stuff, right? We're not even here for that. But most of these kids are a brand. You say those kids' names and you know who they are. Some of these kids been in school 6-7 years. I mean, I may be exaggerating, but some of these kids been in school. They've been in school a long time, trusting the process. But when are we going to start really facilitating this process and try to fix this broken system? While the system itself may not be able to be completely fixed, we can fix how we navigate this process for our student athletes, right? We can navigate this for how we deal with it, right? How we push them through. We can start telling them some of the truths, right? We can tell them what's not right. And I'm sure most people already do that, right? So once again, this is not an indictment of how you do certain things. It's just saying that the difference between trust and facilitate is two totally different things. As I said already, trust is a noun. It's a firm belief in the reliability, truth, ability, or strength of someone or something. That someone could be the person that's leading them, deciding all, giving them all the help and decision that they could possibly make, in the coach. That something is the process. And we keep telling them to trust the process. Facilitate, it's a verb. That's action, right? That's action. Make an action or process easy or easier. I don't think it could be said any better than that. Facilitating the process, I believe, leads to trusting it. How many of us trust something just because of a brand name, just because it's that potato chip, just because it's that brand of mustard, that type of meat, that car, right? That's what we do. But sometimes it comes to a point of like us trusting a brand or trusting something that we know that's there and it's always been around. And just like with the schools, it's been around, or that coach has been there, they've been around, and you feel like you want to go play for them. But as they say, the grass is not always green on the other side, right? So when are we going to start facilitating this process more than telling these kids to trust it? Yeah, it's, I think somebody said earlier, as far as the process is that it's easy for them to do, right? I get that. It can be easier. That's true. But the thing is this, though. Everything that's easy and doesn't come from hard work doesn't mean it's going to work out, right? So why do we do it? I mean, I guess that's the major question. Why do we do it? Why do we continue to tell kids to trust the process instead of trying to facilitate it? Is it that sometimes we don't know how to facilitate the process anymore? Is it that we aren't evolving in how we teach student athletes? I mean, hell, some of us can't even train student athletes properly, right? We see the videos. We don't know why these parents pay a lot of these people to do some of this crazy stuff that we see, right? But you want some value out of it. What kind of value you got out of balancing, let's just say balancing a water bottle in their hand and them bouncing the ball? Or what are all this crazy? Y'all know all this crazy stuff that they be doing with the beach balls off the wall and stuff like that. And y'all see this stuff. Is it just us? Is it just that we just don't know how to facilitate the process or how to facilitate anything when it comes to talking to student athletes anymore? Because the student athlete, quote unquote, has changed. The way they do things is differently. They talk differently. They walk differently. They dress differently. So what? Who cares? The process is the process. When are we going to evolve? Do we catch up to the process and fix how we teach the process? Or do we try to find a way to change the process? See, there's so many moving parts in this process, right? But it's only two things that remain the same in the process. That's trust and that's facilitating. We facilitate the process by teaching certain things about it, by going about our daily way of teaching them how to go about doing the SATs and the ACTs and making sure their scores are all right. We're prepping them, right? So by facilitating them, we're prepping them, getting them ready, right? So that at some point they can then trust the process because they've seen the process happen, right? But how do we push them straight to trust the process if we're not showing them? Now, what is it now? What is it called? SAT optional, right? How many of y'all really feel that the SAT and the ACTs or whatever should be optional? Okay, it may help out, right? Get some kids in school and all of that great stuff, right? But what they're not being told, and this is the part about trusting the process. How about facilitate that process and now tell those student athletes that not taking the SAT or the ACT could potentially hurt them, right? Because they may not be able to get additional funds, right? So who's telling them that? Oh, we're just hearing, oh, I don't have to. All we heard was, I don't have to take the SAT or the ACT. Great. Where do I sign up? Because personally, I probably would have took that deal because I probably would have took it. It's another test I don't have to take, right? But isn't it part of the process? Isn't it a part of the process the way that it was, right? So what did we then do? Did we start dumbing down the process? So we trust in a process that held us to a higher esteem, right? That said, you get good grades. I got great athletic ability. I'm here. I'm here above other people now because I got great grades and I'm a good athlete, right? Now we say, oh, you don't need the SAT and the ACT. Why? That's a long story too. I don't even want to get into why I believe that they, started doing the SAT, ACT, and ACT optional stuff, right? But you take funds out of your pocket. You're a great student, athlete. Get about all the money you can. All of these scholarships sitting there at these schools that you probably have to have the SAT or the ACT or some combination to tap those additional funds. But they're not telling you a lot of that, right? They're not telling it to you. And if they are telling it to you and they're not ingraining it into and really, really telling you, then they're doing you a disservice by not telling you or not pushing you to still do it. What does it hurt to take the SAT and the ACT? What does it hurt? Remember, we're supposed to trust the process, so we're supposed to be facilitating these student athletes from the 8th, 9th grade on and pushing them to be the best student first, athlete second. We're supposed to be pushing them to do these things. So now we're saying you don't have to be the best student out there. You don't have to be the best student athlete. So what are we saying now? It should be athlete student because we're taking a lot of the academic portions out of it, right? I mean, is this that way of why, we think about it? Talk about student athletes getting paid and how they're making a lot of money for these schools and stuff, right? I mean, Did we just go back? We set student athletes back years, right? Because we're saying, no, we don't want to pay you, right? But we're going to make it easier for you to come to our school and get this potentially free education. Just saying. Got to think about those kind of things. Think about that when you think about a process. Is there a reason why they don't want me to take these tests? Is there a reason why? So when you get your degree, what's going to happen with your degree then? Are they going to say that now you can't take these classes? I need you to take this class over here. What about you go to a school that says you can't take a particular major? Oh, now you're going to leave that school, or you're not going to go to that school in the first place because they won't allow you to take your particular major. But let me ask you a question, though. Did you ask that when you were talking to the coach? Did you say, is it going to be a problem if I take this major? No. You just love the school, or you love being there with that coach, and now you're upset, and now you're in the transfer portal because you trusted the process that failed you. And it's a process that has been failing a lot of student athletes over the years. And unfortunately, as coaches, we don't know how it's going to be fixed. But we do know that something needs to happen. And it needs to happen really quick. Like I said, we trust in the process. I think we trust in it a little too much. We need to put more emphasis on facilitating that process and really going back to basics and really teaching our student athletes what it means to be a student, what it means to really choose your school. Yes, the schools may want you. Do they want you solely for your athletic ability? Hey, let's be real. You're there to pay. You're there for athletics, right? That's your job. That's the student athlete's job there, right? That's what it is. Make no bones about it. That's what it is. It's a job and it's a business. I need you at my school to help me to get these incentives. The coach isn't there just for the hell of it. The coach is there to make a living. It's that coach's business to win. It's that coach's business to make the conference championships and things like that, to make the NCAA tournament, NAIA tournaments. It's their job. NJCAA tournament. It's their job to make these tournaments. It's their job to win. If they lose, guess what they do? You know what? Know what the process does to them? The process fires those coaches because they didn't live up to what they needed to do, because they need those student athletes on their campus. They need you, student athletes, on their campus so they can keep a job. That's what it is what it is. They have to feed their families too, right? It's their job. They're not doing it for free. They're not doing it well, you can do it for the love of the game, still get paid, right? There's nothing wrong with that. But when do we start understanding that the process is broken? The process is evolving. It's not evolving really in a good way as far as I'm concerned, but we got to go back and start learning to facilitate this process. So student athletes will then begin to trust it. And not only the student athletes, but then so the parents can begin to trust it. And everybody can start doing their own little thing. Y'all can do your kumbaya moments and whatever you want to do. But hopefully this is some kind of a sobering truth. Whether you agree or disagree, I mean, hopefully it gets you to think in a whole different light, that trusting the process is great. But as I already said, you got to be able to facilitate the process. And those that can facilitate the process, I believe will go far, will be your up and coming, great coaches. There are some coaches that do facilitate the process very well, and they get their student athletes to buy in, right, while they're there. Okay, but this is mainly talking about getting there in the first place. So many kids in that transfer portal. If you are a traditional student athlete right now, you're in your high school year, you're coming out, it's been tough because you're battling folks that have had the job already. And that's what it is. That's what it boils down to, real world. You're battling student athletes who already have the job. You want their job, but are you going to be able to get it? Have you been taught the easy way? Have you been taught how the process works? Has someone helped you to make it easier? Or did you just decide, I want to trust the process and get by as easy as I can and not worry about all of the hard work? Something to think about. Let's learn to facilitate that process before we keep telling them to trust it.